I've got sound. How is it? Is it bad or is it okay? Is it okay right now? Can you guys see me and hear me? We got 5 people on right now. So, hey Pepper, are you do you read music, or are you learning romance by tab? Uh-oh, I see spinning. Diane's got a spinning beach ball for some reason there. That's weird. Oh, did it do a commercial? Well, that's all right. That's how I make money. So probably with some COVID ad. Hey, Rick. Anthony, how's it going? The thing you sent me wasn't quite right. I'll have to look at it again. I'll email you. I forget what it was. It was something was weird on it. You did the AJ's the one that did the diatonic scales in the key of D. He did the whole fretboard, made it look all pretty, like a real professional document, unlike my chicken scratch. And he also he went back and did the pentatonic ones as well. So give us 3 minutes. Okay. Commercial. Diane, are you there? I see a spinning beach ball. Let me see how I'm doing on this upload. Hey, it's all uploaded. Okay, we're done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, all files are done. Closing that window. Okay, closing other windows so I don't have anything going on. So Pepper, do you read music? Are you learning to read music in your classical guitar lessons or your guitar lessons? And if so, I would recommend an easy piece. This is actually for classical guitar a very easy piece for the most part. There's some fingerings that are a little tough. Oh, you're doing tab right now. Okay, so this, you know, what's funny is look at the. This is a piece from what's the date of this original? So this is from the 1500s, and it was written up for lute originally, and you can see that that's actually tab notation there. That's the original notation, or something similar to that. And so back in 1500s for lute, they really did use tab. They didn't use music notation so much. But this Six Pavanas and a Fantasia by Louis Milan, it's literally almost 500 years old, and it's pretty easy to read. And what you can do, it's written, you know, it's as far as if you're a beginner reader, it's not too bad. So I recommend this. I would have a lot of my students get this. I actually have a PDF of this I can upload and put on my Facebook page because it's public domain. But it's basically 5 pieces or 6. I'm sorry, 6 pieces, and then a little bit busier the Fantasia is a little bit busier. Yeah, I'll put it up again. Hold on. You guys don't need to do screenshots, but if you want to, you can do a screenshot. But that's fairly easy. Most of the chords, I'll play it. Now, what I do on this and so here's the reason I like this piece a lot, is this is when you play it, basically what I do is I would play it, the first piece, twice, top to bottom, okay? And you know, you play it slowly. It's a mood piece, and I would use it at weddings. And so if you play each piece twice, and there's one of these pieces where I would one of the 6, I forget which one it is. One of the 6, I would actually do 2 lines and repeat those 2 lines, and then do the next 2 lines and repeat those 2 lines, and then the next 2 lines and repeat those lines. Okay, so you are working with sheet music. So this is a fairly easy piece to learn. And so it's got some great technique things, but it's you know, what I do is I would always capo at the 3rd fret. So I'm not actually having to transpose anything. I just imagine that I'm playing in first position, but it gives it more of a lute sound, and it's very Renaissance sounding. And nice. And there is probably tab for this. I guarantee you somebody's done tab for this. It wouldn't be difficult to do at all. But if you notice, the first chord was like an A power chord, like A minor, but just the bottom three notes of the A chord. Then it went to E, and then back to A minor, and then back to E. So these are all pretty familiar chords. And then single notes, and then G over B, and then C, G over B, A minor to E again. So it's all a lot of this is familiar chords. Some of the things like on the fourth line, they have this section where it goes C chord, and then it's high G and it actually is really, really good technique development, because what it wants you to do is like this: hold that G while you do this movement, and then hold that note while you do the higher movement. So you're moving the top melody and you hold it, and then you move the bottom melody, and then you hold that, and then you move the top melody again, and everything. And that's a real finger independence kind of skill. And so I'm going to tilt this up a little bit. Yeah, it's just great. And Louis Milan, I think it's Italian. He was Italian. Let me look it up real quick. It's on the front page here. No, Spanish. So yeah, Luis Milan. I just think Milan. I think Spanish. Born in Valencia in 1500, straight up. Died in 1561, or after. It says he died after 1561. So they really don't know. So yeah, but it's a great, and you know, there's some really pretty melodies in here too. Let's see. I'm just kind of waiting for people to show up. So we're gonna hit it. Don't worry. And it changes key a little bit too. There's that first one's in A minor. Then we have one that's kind of in B, and then we have one that's in C or B minor. Let's see, what's this one? This one kind of sounds like Three Blind Mice. Actually, I'm playing it. You can play it slower than that. Actually, it should be slower than that. And like I said, this is a great piece. If you can get this piece down, because it's not that hard, it would literally take up 20 minutes of a wedding. So like when people are getting seated, I would use this piece because, you know, you don't want to make mistakes in front of people. So I'm not doing really, when I would play, I don't play weddings anymore, but when I did play weddings, I would generally populate my set with very easy music so that I'm not having to sweat it at all. So, you know what? I'm going to leave this up because we're going to be talking. Well, we're actually going to be doing more music theory stuff, sans guitar. I'll keep it handy. But I could probably just do an hour of playing classical music and you guys can just like do work and listen to me play. Let's see. Oh, right. Happy birthday. Shoot. Oh, man. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Pepper. Happy birthday to you. Okay, that's it. Oh, man, I'm going to cut that out of the video. Oh, shoot. It's all about Pepper today. And somebody's wife is having a birthday today, but he's probably not on the lesson. Okay, so we have been talking, well, we were talking about the cage method. Also, this is April 1st, April Fool's Day. So basically we're stuck until April 30th. We're pretty much all stuck inside if we can do it. So I'll probably keep doing this all the way to the end of the month if I'm able. So I think when this is all over, I for sure will probably stop, although I'm really enjoying this. But I have a feeling once this is over, we can all get back to work and get back to school. Now, I don't know about going back. People aren't going to be going back to school. They'll probably continue to finish the school year online. I know my daughter is, and my son is. They're both in, I have two kids in school right now. And that's why God bless you for using those Amazon links. It all helps. two kids in school. Um, but oh, your wife's in isolation. Dang. Okay. Um, the that's fine. Christopher, that's awesome. Yes, yeah. Capo with the third fret on a classical guitar is basically the same, similar tuning to a lute. Technically, a lute was tuned the instead of if you capo at the third fret, the third string would be a B flat, but on a lute they would tune it down to A. But anyway, yeah. So I will probably keep doing these lessons all the way to the end of the month, like I said. So that's 45 days. I'm thinking, what am I going to teach on? And you guys seem to, me pretty well. I can pretty much go off on anything. So, but if you do have some suggestions, I will take that. We'll probably do some strumming stuff. The music theory stuff. There's other things I can talk about music theory wise. Reading rhythmic notation, we could do that. That might be hard to do together. I would because I don't know how much lag we have here. But that might be something we can do together. So we're going to definitely circle of fifths. That's right. I can talk about that. And I remember chord theory. That's the next thing we're going to do. That will be actually, I think you'll really like that. And it'll be fun because you guys are going to start to figure out, you're going to start to make sense when I say root, third, fifth, or seventh chords, or, whatever. If I say a ninth chord, you'll know what I mean. And that's actually awesome. I wish I could get all 70,000 of my subscribers on here so that I could get them all up to speed on theory so that I could do my lessons at an even more complex level, but totally fine with working with people where they're at. I've always done it that way. So, and so far today, or the last 2 days, we've talked about the modes, and I try to make, I've had this lesson I've been teaching literally since I was teaching in Indiana starting in 79. Probably I started developing this in 80, 81. And, I just felt like it was a fairly easy way to understand the modes and to break them down and to figure out how to use them. And that's another series of lessons over there. Like when do you pull this mode out and when do you pull that mode out? There's something called modal playing, modal, MODAL. Oops. Basically you could do a jam that's just like, in fact, I have all those jam tracks. I'll put those up in a second here, but I have jam tracks for every mode. So you can practice playing in that mode. And then you can understand modal playing. So, modal playing, like you might do a song that's totally in D Dorian. The entire song's in D Dorian. Miles Davis did that. He would have songs that were modal. They might modulate up a half step and then back down. It might be A in one key, like D Dorian, and then it might go to E flat Dorian for one section and then back to the A section. And so that was kind of big in the 60s, even late 50s. Modal jazz got to be a thing. So you can really use modal jazz or mode scales to play in that kind of context, but we're not going to really talk about that. So the first thing I had you do, and if you want to get ready to do a screenshot, here's the first day's work. You guys, we did great on that day. Yesterday was tough because I really wanted to get the interaction. Most modal jams have only 2 chords. I can tell you that too, Verdi. In fact, if you go to my jam tracks and look at my modes thing, it actually shows you the 2 chords. So it's a trick that Frank Cabali used. Okay, so the first thing we did was we wrote out the piano keyboard, right? White keys and black keys. And if you know anything about piano, there's 2 black keys, and then there's not a black key, and then 3 black keys, and a not, and then 2 and 3 and 2 and 3. And that's the pattern the entire length of an 88 key keyboard. And then I had you we wrote down the names of the modes here as we figured them out. And we started on C. C to C was major, but we also can call it Ionian. D to D was Dorian, E to E was Phrygian. Then we had Lydian, Mixolydian. A to A is A minor or Aeolian. And then we had Locrian. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, I'm going to turn the mic a little bit more towards me. And then, so that I had you write it staggered like this, so you could see all the C, Ds, all the Fs, the Gs, the As, all that stuff, that they're all the same notes. So these 7 modes are relative. They're all related to each other because they have the exact same DNA. They have the exact same A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A. So, and then we analyze them. So you guys did this. You went, okay, what is C to D? C to D is a whole step. So the first interval in a major scale is a whole step, and then the next interval is a whole step. And so if we took this formula and started on any note and stuck to that formula, you would have a major scale in that key. So if you started on a G note and did this formula, you would have a G major scale. If you started on E and did this formula, you would have an E major scale. Okay. So that's true for all of these. And again, we wrote the letters here representing the 7 modes. We have Ionian or major, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. And Aeolian is also minor. So we'll often refer to them as major or minor. Those are the 2 main modes. Okay. Then yesterday, this took longer than I thought. I was hoping to do 2 things yesterday, but that's fine. What we did was we created what I call parallel scales. So all of these scales use the exact same letters, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C in that order, but we had to make accommodations on the letter names we had to put different suffixes on some of them. So like, for example, D Dorian is also C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, but we had to flat the E flat and the B flat because we used the formulas to create these, okay? And now we're going to get into the area where Verdi was kind of referencing a couple days ago. And what we're going to do is I don't really have a good way to put this. So, I feel like, okay, it's like relative, formulas, parallel, okay? And now I'm just going to put what we did. That's all I can think of. What we did. What we did last summer. All right. So if you want, we can write down what we did. If you can come up with a better way, at the end of this, you can say, oh, you probably just should have called, this, that. And I'm sure there's a better word for it. And I probably thought of it before, but okay. So this time we're not going to write down letters. We're going to write down numbers for the most part. Okay. So we can go ahead and do the I for Ionian or major, D for Dorian, P for Phrygian, L for Lydian, M for Mixolydian, A for Aeolian or minor, and then Locrian. We can do our Locrian. Okay. So if you write that, now we're going to do the modes in the same exact order we've always been doing them, which is the way they appear naturally, as you saw in here. Totally saw how they appeared naturally in this particular order when we just lined it up like this. So, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to look up here and see what we did. What would we do if we had a major scale to get to this mode? This is a secondary way. You can memorize, okay? And Verdi's been mentioning this. You can memorize the formulas, okay? So like, for example, the formula for a major scale is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. The formula for a Lydian scale is whole, 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 half, whole, whole, half. Well, that's harder to do, I think, than some of this. Some of these are actually really easy to remember just by remembering one thing instead of having to memorize the entirety of the entirety of the formulas. Okay, so the first thing we're going to write, and we can write this all the way down, is we're going to write an R. Okay, R equals root. Okay. So we can put an R on every one of these. I wish we had I should do this Zoom. I wish YouTube did like a Zoom thing where we could all see each other. Okay. So, so basically so R equals root. It's the root of the scale, the first note, the 1. We could call it 1. I just like using the term root because I will probably use the term root many times, especially when we're talking about chord theory. I'm going to use the term root a lot. So I want you to kind of connect root with the beginning or 1. Okay. Oh, your stream is pausing. It's anybody else having that issue? I'm not uploading anything now, but you know, everybody on the internet. Yeah, you guys would have to wear pants. Yes. Or skirts. It doesn't matter. Verdi, you're Scottish, right? Okay. So it looks like, okay, everybody else is doing good. Hey, Alan, how's it going, man? So Fernando, yay, good to see you. Michelle's here. Okay, you're here. Michelle, you want to catch up? Okay, so basically what we're doing, just to catch up, if anybody's, oh, I see 35 people up right now. So we're writing the abbreviations for our modes. I for Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian, writing R's in front of all of them for root, okay? And then I'm just calling this section what we did. So what we did to these, what we did to the C major scale to get each one of these is what we're going to write here, okay? I'm going to try to write more legibly. I'm actually not Scottish. I'm Irish, Welsh, French, and Bohemian, kind of like Czechoslovakia, Romania. That's kind of I'm a mutt. So, okay. So what we're going to write here is on this first one, and it's going to be kind of like this up here. I'll show you. We're going to write root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 root. And that exactly represents the Ionian scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And it's root 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I said, what's the 4th of C major, you would say F. If I said, what's the 7th in C major, you'd say B. If I said, what's the 2nd in C major, you would say D. Okay? Verdi's going to like this one. Okay. All right. Now, we can, if we want, we can also do the same thing for the next line. Okay, just write, for Dorian, write 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and root. But let's look up to the Dorian line here. And what did we do? Which of the scale tones did we change, and what did we do? Okay, so if we look at, we changed the 3rd and we flattened it, okay? And we changed the 7th. The B was flattened. So what we're going to do is we're going to go flat 3 and flat 7, okay? So I put a little flat sign in front of the 3. See that? And flatted the 7. Okay, so what that means, so if instead of having to memorize the formula for the Dorian scale, which would be difficult because all the formulas kind of sound alike, okay? All you have to do is remember, oh, if I want to make a Dorian scale, I take a major scale and I flat the 3 and I flat the 6, and boom, you got a Dorian scale. So here's a C major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I said 6. I'm sorry. Flat the 7. Hey, Jack. We just started, so don't worry. You'll catch up quick. Okay. I'm going to hold up the paper. You can take a screenshot of what we've done so far. So, yeah, I'm sorry. So it's the 7th we flatted. I apologize. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I'm getting text. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Gary, just say squirrel when I look up. But one of the composers I work for, he's telling me he's got a lot more work for me, which is bueno. So that's what I was uploading was work. Okay, so there's the scale. I do all the guitars for Apex Legends. So if anyone's a gamer and you have an Xbox, you can play Apex. Oh, you were doing that last. Oh, playing the major scale. Okay, so if we flat the 3rd, we can play that, or we can play here. 4, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's a, and I'm going to show you, we're going to do these tomorrow. I'm going to write these out tomorrow for you, okay? My wife and I were in Holland just a little over a year ago. We were in Amsterdam and loved it. And it's 8 hours, I think. So 7 o'clock your time. I think I'm in Los Angeles. Oh yeah. Kathy's keeping track. Okay, so in other words, instead of having to memorize the formulas, sip on it. Okay, you caught it. Cheers. It's a drinking game we play. Every time I touch my face, you have to take a drink. And so we're trying to obey all the new rules now, the new reality. So instead of having to memorize those formulas, you can just remember, take a major scale, flat the 3 and flat the 7, and you've got a Dorian scale. Really cool. Some of them are going to be crazy, like flat, blah, blah, 7 flats, whatever. Not that bad, but some of them are going to be really easy. Okay, so does that make sense? So what we did was we're doing what we did. What we did to the C major scale to make them, what happened there? What do we do to a major scale to create a Dorian? Okay, if you look at the Phrygian scale, we've got a lot of flats in the Phrygian scale. Remember, it was 4 flats. It was relative to the key of A flat. Don't worry about this. But so we are going to have we're going to have to make some multiple adjustments. So anybody want to tell me? Okay, so if we have root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 root. Okay. Does somebody want to tell me what we have to do to get a C or a Phrygian scale? You don't even have to think. This is all transposable. Glug glug. Hey Pepe, I saw you follow me on Facebook or on Instagram. Yes, Kathy, you are right. David, you were close. It is 4 flats. So flat 2, 3, 5. Yeah, exactly. So you could think of it as this. I think that's right. Check my work there. Kathy, you're killing it. All right, so I'm going to write that in so we have it. So this one's a little convoluted. Not that you're going to be playing in Phrygian very often, although this morning that's all I was playing in. I was playing in, I can make this a teachable moment. I was playing in E Phrygian, which is pretty simple because it's the third mode in the key of C major, D minor, or D Dorian, and then E Phrygian. So E Phrygian, I have the track up and I was creating some weird stuff. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. That's basically the scale I was using today. And I'm gonna try to find something here. Okay, so like this is, if you can hear this. So this is for Norm's Rare Guitars. They have a YouTube channel if you want to follow. There's some amazing guitars there. I bought one guitar there and this shirt. Actually, they gave me this shirt when I bought the guitar, but it was a pretty expensive guitar. So that here's what I did, just to show you kind of what I do with my day. I created actually 10 different tracks of crazy sounds, some EBO stuff, some baritone things. Like here's what I'll give you a little taste of. This is what I was doing. You hear that? Here's some chords. Let's see. That kind of stuff. Then I was doing, let's see what else. So like really pretty weird stuff. Let's see, what was this one? This is more EBO. So I'm kind of just a mad scientist, composing bass lines. Oh, show us which guitar. Oh, this is for Apex. Yeah, that's Apex. And so yeah, so I basically what I do, I work on with the composer, and he sends me these tracks, and then I get to have fun. I just basically am a mad scientist, and I create tracks that go on top of his tracks. So I don't think I did any pick scrapes, but I did make noises, and so that like in fact, I'll play some. Since we're on the Phrygian, I'll play some Phrygian with an EBO. This is an EBO, okay? So what that EBO stands for is electric bow. So what it does, and this thing's been around, I think, since the 60s, believe it or not. I'll pull up a sound. Okay, so I've got a sound that's basically a lot. Yeah, squirrel. I know, Pepper. Yeah, it's a Squire bass. Yep. So basically, I get to be a mad scientist for much of my job, which is fun. I love working on Apex because I get to be like I said, just creating soundscapes, kind of creating noises. Some of it's it sounds like whales. You know, it is magnets. Yeah, I think it's 2 magnets or something. And see, it's got I get the little lights on right now. I got to make sure I turn it off. Basically, it uses a 9-volt battery. And it just rests on the strings, and then you just put this over one string, and it just starts vibrating the string. I have a real bow, but I don't have any rosin right now, so it's not going to work. But the real bow is really tough to use on guitar. If you ever looked at a violin, the strings are kind of like this, okay? Kind of like a VW Bug. They kind of go like this, and guitar strings are pretty much flat. You know, electric guitar, you might have a little bit of curve to them, but acoustics are flat. So, okay, back to our lesson. That was a big, giant squirrel right then. But I'm like I said, I'm getting distracted by my text because the guy is telling me he loves everything I just did, which I love. I love working. My composers that I work for, they are great. Yeah, guitar radius is what that's called. It's very flat. So it's very hard to get one string on a guitar. Although I have guitars with 2 strings or 3 strings on them, so I can do it for those. But I saw a new trick that I'm going to try to work on, and I need some rosin to do it. So I'll tell you about that later. Okay, so now we're moving on to the Lydian. That's the 4th scale in the modes. And if we look at the Lydian, we only changed one thing, right? We sharped the 4. Yeah, I need to keep working. I'm very thankful that. So we're going to write 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, and root. So the cool thing about Lydian is that all you have to remember is it's a major scale with a sharp 4, right, Verdi? You were saying that a couple days ago, and I'm like, hold on, we're going to learn that in a second. So, and you can put the sharp before the number 4, but when you're using it in F sharp, you want it afterwards. But yeah, that's exactly right. Hey, Verdi used a caret. See, I learned something new. And so that makes it really easy to take, and you can take any major scale and quickly turn it into a Lydian scale by just counting up 4 notes, starting on the root, 1, 2, 3, and the 4th note you would want to move up a half step, 1 fret on the guitar, and you've got a Lydian scale. So here's a normal major scale. So, right, but Lydian it would be. It sounds like a key change almost. But I love that. There's a Lydian chord in Stairway to Heaven where it goes. I think it was like something like a. Right? You remember that section of Stairway to Heaven right before the solo. Okay, so that's basically a C. Lydian is kind of implying you're in the key of G. But still, it's a beautiful chord. It's used a lot in film compositions. Okay, so that's one that's really, really easy to do. So what we did to C major to get or what we did to the major to get a Locrian is we just sharp the 4. Okay, we're going to have a similar experience with the Mixolydian. Which note are we going to change, and how are we going to change it to take a major scale and turn it into a Mixolydian scale? We only have to do one note. Pepper, I'll tell you in a second. Yep, you're right, Mark. You're right, Diane. What do we do to the 7? Probably Satriani probably did do something like that. Everybody's, yep. So the answer is flat 7. So the cool thing about the Mixolydian scale, you don't have to memorize whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole. You don't have to memorize that. All you have to do is remember, just take a major scale and flat the 7. So just remember major scale with a flat 7. So here's a major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to take that B and go down to B flat. Which is a great scale to use over a C7 chord. Okay, so that one is really, really easy too. All right. So now we're down to 2 more scales. See how much faster we're going over this than yesterday? This is a much easier lesson than yesterday's lesson. I mean, we're just now about 30 minutes. Okay. So the Aeolian, we are going to have to make some changes for the Aeolian. To take a major and make it minor, we're going to have to do some changes. So what are we going to have to do to this scale here, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, to get this one down here? All right. And what degrees, what numbers are, yep. Bertie, you're right. Yep. Christopher, you're right. Is this making sense? This is actually a lot easier, especially for some of these. Dorian is easier, Lydian, Mixolydian, those are all easier than memorizing the formulas. And the other thing is you don't necessarily have to memorize the formula, but if you can find any mode's relative major, if you can find the major scale on the fretboard, then you just go to that. So if you're doing the Lydian, you can just start the major scale on the 4th degree and you're going to create a Lydian. Good. Clear as mud. Well, that means it's not clear. But yet you got the answer right. Okay, so I'm going to write the answer in. You all have it already. Okay, root 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Okay, the last one's going to be, again, this is Locrian. It's the theoretical scale, although Verdi seems to really, really like it. But we're going to go, yeah, we are using the C major scale. It doesn't matter what fret we're at. We're talking just letter names at this point. I'm going to show you tomorrow. We're going to do some scales. I'm going to show you the first page. I'm going to show you an open position. Okay. This is my plan anyway. So tomorrow I'm going to show you all of these scales in open position. I'll create little diagrams and we can screenshot them. And I would copy the screenshot. So I would go ahead and make the diagrams and then basically redo my work. So it's better looking and in your own handwriting. And because it's another layer of learning. When you actually write it out, you learn. I remember I did, what was it? I had to memorize like massive for school. I had to memorize like massive sections of Bible verses. And one of the tricks was read it 5 times, write it 5 times, read it 5 times. And you usually had it. And even if for a pretty long section, it pretty much worked. So Locrian is your wife because Locrian's not, it's Lydian. That's a better name. Yes. No, Pepper, you're close. You're moving ahead on me here. Locrian, you're close. Somebody else try it. I want to see if somebody else can get it. Yep, Kathy, that's right. Yep, Diane, that's right. Yes. So we have a flat 2, a flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, and root. Flat 5 is the one that's kind of makes it sound diminished. We're going to learn that with chord theory. When we start doing chord theory, you'll begin to understand what the term diminished and augmented and major and minor and all that stuff means. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Exactly. Locrian, everything is flatted but the 1 and 4. So you could remember that. That'd be a good way to remember the Locrian. But I really doubt in your entire life of playing music, you'll ever need the Locrian scale. I mean, unless you're writing some prog rock music, that's probably not going to happen. So let's see. Chris, you were almost there. I'm just going to pretend you hit. Chris, I'm just going to pretend that you hit return too soon. Okay. Yep. So David, you got it totally right. Everything was flatted except the 1 and 3. Pepper, if you fixed it. Oh, you did. Okay, there you go. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure I'm not a fan, and by fan, I just don't know their music, Dream Theater or Rush. That's not to say that they're not great bands, but it's just there's so much music to listen to, and literally, I spend 8 hours a day playing music, and I don't really do a lot of listening, especially when I'm in the middle of writing. I try not to listen too much because I don't want to copy something that exists. I'm thinking about writing some more classical music. I know I started that series on doing my record, and you would think this would be the perfect time to be working on my solo record or whatever it's going to be. And yet what's happened is I've just gotten so busy. And to be honest, part of my job, I don't know if my wife is here, but part of my job is to keep my wife busy too and keep her off the news. And because she's home, she's not working so much. So she's frustrated, rightfully so. And she's a substitute teacher. So she's not pretty much in California. I doubt the kids are going to come back. So she won't be working, thus not getting paid for the rest of the school year. So my DAW is Logic. I use Logic DAW. We talked about that before. That's Digital Audio Workstation. So it's what I record on Logic Pro X, I think. And then I really only, because it's just me and I really don't ever want anybody coming here to record. I don't want to record drums or anything. I mean, I have Kelly comes over to sing vocals, but for the most part, it's just me. So I have a 2-channel Apogee Duet. I think I have the 2 or something, the newer one. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea, Kathy, is to have a schedule. Go ahead and put yourself on a schedule. We're walking every morning and then walking every afternoon. So we're getting our 10,000 steps in. That's another important thing. Somewhere my wife read an article that said the people who average 10,000 steps a day have a 65% better chance of surviving coronavirus. So it's definitely my friend's brother-in-law passed away, and he was 69, and he was fairly sedentary. He drank a lot. I don't know if he smoked a lot, but he was in New York City. So he's an actor, Mark Bloom, and his wife has it now. And the sad thing was that she wasn't able to be with him. So that because they wouldn't let her in. It's just so he died basically. Well, I think when she got tested, finally she tested positive for it, and so they let her in at the end when he was unconscious. So that was pretty sad. He was in what's that movie Madonna did? Desperately Seeking Susan. He was in Crocodile Dundee. A lot of TV things. John Prine, yeah, John Prine is bad off. He's also very old. And a lot of these older musicians too, they did a lot of drugs, they did a lot of smoking, drinking, things like that. So you're going to be probably more vulnerable because of that. Okay, so I'm going to hold up this page. You guys, anyone who wants to do a screenshot of the completed work, you know what? Stop. You had to be quick to get that. Here's the first page of our mode lesson. Okay, try not to get my fingers on anything. Yeah, I mean, my son comes to visit a lot, and I'm kind of a little paranoid because he's tends to be around a lot of people. So, but like I said before, I think my son already had it. I may have already had it. In fact, I'm pretty sure Alex had it and he was around us because he lost his sense of taste and smell, which is one of the symptoms. And I think it comes back. I have another friend that had it, and she lost her sense of taste and smell too. So, but yeah, Mark Bloom, you can look him up. Blum. David, you might have, because you're in New York City, you might have heard of him and him, passing. And so the sad thing is my friend's, he's like one of my best friends, his wife, it's her sister's married to Mark. And, the natural thing to do would be hop on a plane, fly to New York and comfort your sister, but she can't. Yeah. It's affecting olfactory. So, I wonder if you could have like a really mild case of it, but lose your taste and smell, sense of smell and taste. If that happens, that you might be going, oh, well, at least that's the least I got. And like I said, I think it's supposed to come back. I've lost my sense of taste and smell with the flu before, with a bad cold or a sinus infection, and had it come back. So, and I remember, like being sick and then drinking coffee or something and go, wow, that tastes weird. Why does it taste so weird? Or like doesn't taste like anything. Yeah, looping station is great to practice. I'm gonna throw up. I didn't here. Let me pull the playlist. Let's see. Fine. Jam tracks. So I have 72 jam tracks here in my jam track playlist. Modes in a lot of keys. I started doing a lot of them. Even low green. What I would do is I would upload a ton of. Here's that playlist. I would upload a ton of, like I would do all 7 at once. So, yeah, at least your mom's staying at home, David. How's your dad doing? Are they together? Your parents? See, I don't know if you saw me touch my face, but you have to take a drink. That's the game. Remember, it's a drinking game. Tom touches his face. Oh no, I'm referring to myself in the third person. This is really bad. If I touch my face, you have to take a drink. Yeah, Pepper. And I had a low grade fever. I think I had it. My son had it, I think, and so I think he exposed me to it. But I had a version of it where I was lower intestinal issues, if you know what I mean. A low grade fever of like 99, no appetite, real bad kind of fatigue and tightness in the chest that I thought, I've got anxiety. Why am I so anxious about all this? You know, we're okay. We're going to be okay. And tightness, you know. And so then I read later that was one of the common, those were common symptoms. And that oftentimes the people with the lower intestinal stuff didn't have a cough. So they consequently would not be diagnosed, and then they would die because then they would get it bad, and they, you know, so yeah, Gary, you're smart. You got to really. So Gary's parents are 88, 87. So okay, so we've been talking about the modes. So just a review of everything we've done and your massive amount of information, your massive amount of new knowledge that you have. Now, the question is, will you retain this if you're not using it? Well, here's the thing. Like I started at the beginning, we started with a piano keyboard because this is a lesson. This is a lot easier to see on the piano than it is on the guitar, especially if you don't know your fretboard. If I knew that every one of you knew every note on your fretboard, we might very well do all of this on the guitar. But instead we didn't. And then the next thing we did was we created what I called relative modes, which these 6 scales are all the same notes, but starting on different notes and ending on different notes. So if it started on D, it ends on D. If it starts on A, it ends on A. And then we looked at the distances between the notes, whole step or half step. And by using that, we came up with the formulas. And then, so we did all that the first day. And these are all the formulas for the Ionian, the Dorian, the Phrygian, the Lydian, Mixolydian, the Aeolian or Minor, the Locrian. And then, again, for all the newbies, and then what we did yesterday, it took us all day to come up with the parallel scales, which are, if you look down here, we have C's, all D's, E's, F's, all on top of each other. But none of the scales are the same because we took the formula we learned the day before and we applied it starting on C, and we ended up with 7 different scales that all start on C, but they're parallel because they all have the same letters. These are parallel scales. Over here on the far right was the relative major to these keys. So in other words, what we did was we looked at Dorian. C Dorian has 2 flats. What major key has 2 flats? Well, B flat. We looked at Phrygian. C Phrygian had 4 flats. What major key has 4 flats? Well, there's only one, A flat. And we're going to learn that when I do my circle of fifths lesson. We'll do something about that. That won't take too long. Lydian is we did the Lydian scale, and we ended up with 1 sharp, and the key that has 1 sharp is G major. And then the Mixolydian, we did the Mixolydian scale starting on C using the formula, and we ended up with 1 B flat and 1 flat, and that's relative. The only major key that has 1 flat is F. And then we did the Aeolian and Locrian the same way, and we came up with E flat and D flat. So that's that. And so what we did today was we just wrote across the top root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 root, and then we said, what did we do? What we did to these scales, or what we did to this scale to create this scale, what we did to this Ionian scale to create the Phrygian scale, what did we do to this Ionian scale to create this Lydian scale, and so on and so forth. And that way we created something that's a little bit easier to remember than trying to remember this mess of whole steps and half steps in these formulas. I mean, the Lydian is whole, half. Well, you could remember that, but it almost sounds like the major. So they all kind of sound alike. But when you think, oh, Lydian is just the major scale, the Ionian scale with a sharp 4, that's all you have to remember. Mixolydian is the Ionian scale with a flat 7. Okay? No worries, Pepper. Okay, so that is basically where we're at. Tomorrow, I want to show you for the acoustic players, for people that are beginners, I'm going to write out the scales, the 7 scales in the key of C. All right. So we're going to write out these, okay, in open position down here. And then we're going to also, the same day, I think, that should be fine. I think I can get that done. We're also going to write out all of these, but not in open position. we're going to actually do, I'll probably do it here. So we'll start on this note and do it in this position. And we'll have, basically we'll end up with 7 little 1-octave scales that we can totally move to 12 different places. So essentially 7 times 12 is 84, right? So, so you'll have 84 new scales that are totally movable up and down the fretboard. And that's just a little piece of a scale. What we did with the D, when we did all the cage shapes up and down the fretboard in the key of D, we learned all the scale tones, okay? And that's where, okay, to be honest, completely, totally fair. It's totally where this information comes in real handy, okay? So if you are, somebody throws at you E Dorian, say, hey, play an E Dorian, you have to go, oh, shoot, what key is that? If you backwards engineer, find out what major key it's related to. So if you do the Dorian E, so like, for example, E major is, if you knew what that was, or if you wanted to use the formulas and you came up with E Dorian, you would come up with E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, and E. And you go, okay, well, that has 2 sharps. Well, what major key has 2 sharps? Well, that would be D major. So totally fair. We already learned D major, right? We totally learned D major. So you already have that diagram with all those notes. If you're playing in an E modal jam, which I very well likely would have one, D or E Dorian. Let me find it. There's F, G, A, C, E Dorian. So here's a 9-minute E Dorian jam on my. I'll send you this right now. In fact, this is great because it's not that easy. Oh, hey, I got an ad. Whee! I just made a millionth of a penny. It's grammatically correct, but it's wordy and hard to read. All right, skip ad. Okay, so this is and Verdi. This is. I'm going to send you the link for this particular one. All right, so this is the E Dorian jam. Okay, basically, and on there is written the chord, the 2 chords I use, and the notes in the scale. All right. In fact, Verdi, I can tell you what I'm doing now. Why don't we make this? I'll show you what I'm doing here, how to create these jams. Okay. Hopefully, I won't lose you guys on this. Again, it comes down to the relative major thing that we're talking about. So it's on point, really, to be honest. But that's an E Dorian jam. So we did. Let me pull up a guitar tone here. Boop, 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 boop. Eat this. New. Yep. Give me a second here. Where's my amp? I need to find an amp. Loading amp now. Going with obnoxious giant rock sound. All right. Let's see if I can get this to. Oh, yeah, that's loud. I don't want to scare anybody. I'm going to turn up the gate, get rid of that hiss. All right. A gate is sonically as a sonic gate. Anything that goes below a certain threshold closes the gate so nothing gets through. And that way you get rid of a lot of noise. Okay, so let's see what yeah, I don't like that sound. Sorry. I got another one in here. This is better, I think. It's pretty gainy. Let's see. But that's fine. I'm just going to turn it down. Okay, so you could take out your diagram of all the scales in D, because remember, if this is an E Dorian jam. E is the 2nd mode in the key of D major. So we learned all our D scales. We learned all that. But if you want to make it sound more Dorian sounding, you just land on E more than you land on D. Totally legit, not cheating. Turn back up the heat. Can you guys hear that? Okay, now here's the jam track. play, because it's basically a minor scale. You can really play blues over it. Now I'm just showing off. Okay, I don't know if you could hear that, but probably I know that music kind of comes through really garbled through the live stream. So, but basically, what I was just doing was I was playing in our mode, and remember when we were doing all the shapes, it's 44 degrees in Alabama. That's not good. We had 80 yesterday, but it's cooler today, like 70. It's supposed to get down to the 60s and 50s for the rest of the week. So, but basically, what I did was, we were playing them. I was basically playing the D form diatonic scale. It was 12, 14, 15, 12, 14. Then we shifted down, remember, for 2 frets, for 2 strings, 11, 12, 14, 11, 12, 14, and then back up 12, 14, 15. That was a scale, the last scale, the diatonic scale we learned. Yeah, we needed to warm up, don't we? That helps viruses go away too. So this scale kind of makes it easier to land on E, because it just feels like an E scale for those of us that play. What is our temperature right now? Boom. 72, sorry. 72. I apologize. Very shoe off. Oh, okay. I'm wearing shoes. I played so fast my shoes flew off. So yeah, sorry, Kathy. Hey, well, not the reason I moved to California, but it's definitely a benefit. I remember my first winter here, I was calling home all the time and bragging about the weather. The first 2 weeks I was here. And at the time I was living in Pasadena. I was living in kind of sharing a house with a bunch of guys, and I had the garage. So the garage had been converted into a room. It was just a big square 17 by 17 room. Didn't have a bathroom or anything like that. So I had to actually go outside to go to the house to go to the bathroom. And so, the first 2 weeks of my, I think it was the last 2 weeks of January in 1983. And I think it was like 80s every day, 90s, sunny, warm. And it was like snowing back home, and I was calling or sending letters and stuff. This is long before email, and bragging about the weather. And then for the next 6 weeks, it was a deluge. So every time I had to go to the bathroom, I had to go out in the pouring rain and just get drenched to go to the house and then come back. So it was like, okay, I stopped bragging about the weather at that point. But yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not gonna have to wear sunscreen. Gosh, I remember my sister used to wear oil back in the 70s. Remember, you would put oil on and bake yourself. So, yeah. So the thing you can do with the modes to kind of, oh, I'm getting feedback, right? No, where am I? What's ringing? Hello. One of the things you can do to get to kind of keep your knowledge about this, and tomorrow what we'll do. One thing you can do is I would do this as homework. I would take a D scale. In fact, let's do this. Okay, so we're going to replicate this, but we're going to do it in the key of D. All right, it's going to be your homework. So we're going to take a D. I'm going to give you the D scale. And so we have the Ionian or major here. And we're going to start with D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. And then we're going to put our carets over F sharp to G and our caret over C sharp to D. And there's our D major scale. All right. So if you go ahead and do the thing we did the first lesson, which is do E, F sharp, G, A, B. I'll do that one too so you can see it. That would be our Dorian. I don't know why I'm getting a ringing in here, but so that would be E Dorian is the same as is relative. Oh yeah, we can write relative over here. Okay, so these are relative because they have the same DNA. All right, so this is your homework. You can do, yep, D has 2 sharps, and that's it. All of these scales, all of these modes of D will have 2 sharps. So you'll be able to, you'll know if you have, when you do these, if you have more or less than 2 sharps, you probably did something wrong. But then that way you'll know all the modes of the key of D. And obviously, like we said, E Dorian is the second mode in the key of D major, the key, second mode of D. We started on D as the major, then the second one would be E, and then F sharp is going to be F sharp Phrygian, and so on and so forth. So you'll be able to kind of create that. So that's your homework. You can do that. And then the other things. So Verdi, how did I create that progression? Okay, here's a little. It's a very, very simple thing. And I'm still getting feedback in here. It's weird. When I talk, I'm hearing this ringing like there's a microphone, but I don't have a microphone on. I have nothing on. Let me mute this. And I'm going to create another track here because I'm going to do a very simple sound. I'm going to show you how I came up with those chord progressions for the modes. Let's see. Let's just do maybe this and get rid of the delay. Okay. So, oh wait, I got to turn this on. Hold on. All right. So what I did was, and like I said, I'm not taking credit for this. This is Frank Gambale. He did. It was like literally a tear out record in the Guitar Player magazine. It was one of those like a plastic records, and you put it on. And I think he was even talking on it. I may still have it somewhere, but he actually, I think, was talking on it. And he went through the modes, and it may have been like one a month, or maybe it was all on one record. It was just a 45, but it was square, so it's like going around a square on your turntable. And basically, what you do is it's real important to be able to know what the relative major is, to be able to create the mode, a simple 2-chord modal progression. Okay. It's going to get a little convoluted, almost like you need a formula to do this, but I don't want you to think this is really complex. It's ultimately very simple, but it's just a matter of kind of combining two different things of knowledge. So basically, the perfect example is the E Dorian that we're doing. Okay. What is the relative major to E Dorian? Yeah. B is the 6th of D. So B minor would be the relative minor. So so E Dorian, we already determined it's related to what major key? And this, yeah, exactly. Grim, you're right. Sorry, I missed that. Thank you, Verdi, for answering. So what's the relative major to E Dorian? See you, Beppe. Ciao. Kate, be safe, my friend. And also check out the bass 6. Oh, you can't see it. I'm afraid. The bass 6 is right there too. The white one at the very end. That's a bass 6. Check that out. I did a video on it, so you can look up bass 6. Oops, 6. It's a very cool instrument, especially for bass players, but you kind of have to play it with a pick. Okay. So yeah, no, Michelle, it's actually, so the relative major, and this is not something that we've learned, okay? Relative major to E Dorian. Remember, Dorian is the second. The relative major to E Dorian, and remember, Dorian is a second scale. So all you have to do is go back one whole step. and it's B. It's D major. Okay. All right. So that's one piece of information. And that piece of information leads you to the two chords we're going to need to imply an E Dorian mode. Okay. So what we want in the key of D major, and see, we haven't gotten here yet. Tomorrow we're doing the scales. The next day, I'm going to start doing chord theory. We're going to start doing chord theory. So you will learn this more in a couple days. And you will understand this. I think you're gonna really, really like this. But what we want, okay, we're in the key of D, and you can even look at this. I'm going to hold this up. What is the fourth chord and the fifth chord? Now, I'm sorry, hold one more piece of information. In any major key, there are three major chords. The one chord is a major key chord. So in the key of D, D would be major. And then the 4 chord and the 5 chord are major. Okay, those are the only major chords in a major key. The 1 chord, and then the chord built on the 4th note, and the chord built on the 5th note. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to build chords in a couple days. We're going to build chords. So you'll understand this better. But I'm giving you this information now. So knowing that, I want the 4 and 5. Which two chords are the 4 and 5 in the key of D? I'm just waiting for someone to type it in. So count up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Must have lag. Yep, you're right, Kathy. Nope, Christopher, it's G and A. You were close. 1, 2, 3, 4 is G, and that's horrible penmanship there. My G's look like A's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is A. So in the key of D, we have a D major chord, we have a G major chord, and we have an A major chord. Okay, exactly right, Chris. You got it right. Now let's see. Yeah, but we're not talking about sevenths yet. Okay. Because Verdi, you wanted to know how to make this progression. We're just keeping it simple. So basically, I've got a G chord here. Let me turn this down. And an A chord here. Okay, so that is the 4 chord and the 5 chord in the key of D. But we want to create an E Dorian mode. So what I'm doing is I'm playing the 4 chord and the 5 chord in the relative major chord of the relative major D with an E in the bass. So if you play an E in the bass and then play the 4 and 5 chord of its relative major, you create a very Dorian. That's a very Dorian sound. Yeah, Lance, you got it right. Okay, so basically what I'm playing is, I'll write this out so you can see. I'm playing 0, X, 3, and then X. This is basically G. You could call this something else, but we're going to call it G over E, okay? You see, I'm hitting the open E string, and then I'm playing this triad, so G triad. And then the next one is open E, and this is A over E, okay? And that would be the second chord in the jam. That's the chord progression. That's basically as simple as that. That's the chord progression for that jam track. And for all my Dorian jam tracks, are going to be the same concept. So when you hear that, can you hear that? It's the same. Yep. So the reason I did the droning E is just so that you can constantly be recentering. It'll keep drawing you back to the root note in E Dorian. And that's kind of why I did the jam tracks that way. Sometimes the problem I get people arguing with me on that's not Locrian, that's a C in the bass, it's not a B in the bass, or whatever. Because I put the bass notes too low. And so if they're listening on a laptop or on a phone, they really can't hear it. So then all they're hearing is the 4 and 5 chord going back and forth, and they psychoacoustically they keep hearing the root, because I thought maybe I did it wrong, and I went back to the session and I looked at it and I went, no, that's a B in the bass. So it's really funny when people, they'll argue amongst themselves. One of them I think I did get wrong, but that one I fixed. And so there are not many Locrian jam tracks up there, so that's why some of those are actually get a lot of spins, which is pretty cool. So, but you know, it's of those of you who are interested in to working on your improvisation and your soloing and your electric chops and things like that, those jam tracks are great for kind of spending a good 10 minutes on a mode and just seeing what you find. And there's other modal progressions. It's not the only E Dorian mode progression is not G over E and A over E. Those aren't the only two chords that you can do to imply modal. But, you know, you could do modal with E minor and then maybe E minor with a sharp 6. The other thing you could do is write, you know, a song, very simple song, maybe using the even kind of a classical thing. You could do something that's using the or whatever. I mean, I'm just making stuff up. So yeah, it's kind of Dorian can be kind of dark. I definitely think Phrygian is the darkest of those, aside from Locrian. But yeah, that's what that is. Bepe's gone. I can here. Check this out. I'll plug in the bass 6. It's pretty cool, especially with that sound. Now, one of the downsides to cheap guitars. I bought this new. And it was cheap for a bass 6. They reissued the bass 6, but it was like $1,400 and I just didn't want to spend that kind of money. So basically what this is a Fender Jazzmaster. Yeah, it's not Jazzmaster. Jaguar Electronics, basically, which I really like. I've never owned a Jaguar, and now I think I want to get one. I really like the sound of this. It's very bright, kind of nasally sound, which is kind of a cool sound. But what this is an octave below a guitar. So this it's E, A, so it plays like, you know, that's an E chord. This is an A chord, this is D chord. But it's just an octave below. The only drag is because it's kind of a cheaper one, the intonation isn't great. Really hard to play down here. Like that's kind of sharp. This could be tuned to E, but then this would be like E, you know, sharp. But yeah, nasally. It kind of has this kind of nasally sound to it, which I really. That's real nasally. It's cool because it has 3 pickup switches, one for each pickup, so you can have any combination. And then it has this kind of like, I don't know what it is, some kind of tone or filter pot or something. Oh, did I? Dang it! You caught me. Totally didn't see that. So this is called a bass 6. And it was big in the 60s, and then they stopped making them. So good. Actually went into the grocery store and the Starbucks was open. Our normal Starbucks is only drive-through, but then across the street is a Ralph's. Is it a Ralph's? Yeah, which is the worst name for a grocery store chain. Ralph's is a synonym for vomit. So why would it's like? Would you ever go to a grocery store called Vomit? Vomits. I don't think so. Yeah, so they use this a lot on James Bond soundtracks. A bass 6 was used a lot on a lot of those 60s bass. So that's kind of why I got it. I've worked on several games. I worked on the John Wick. I think I played bass 6 on the John Wick game. I played bass 6 on a lot of games and some movies. I played 12 string. I added bass. Another thing I like to do, I added bass 6 on a movie called Grandma Dearest. I don't know when it's coming out, but I just played it. But I also will use this instrument to double another bass. So I'll play the regular bass, the Fender bass, and then I'll double it with this. And then I'll just sneak a little bit of this in there to give it like a brightness without somebody was asking me about writing bass parts. I used to write a lot of bass parts because I had a band that was like back in the 80s. It was a Police. Video on this. Yeah, Lance, I don't know if you're still there, Lance. You asked me, you may already made a video on this. Please let me know. But the roadmap for developing guitars would be great. What is the most important thing to learn? Notes on the fretboard, circle of fifths, modes. Oh, okay. Sorry, Lance. I totally missed that. And Lance, are you still there? Let me know. Hey, Gregory from Galveston. You're late. I'm about to sign off. But we're gonna pick up our mode stuff tomorrow. Last lesson on the modes. And I can reiterate this. I did a video basically about learning the fretboard. For basically, you even said what I would have. Yeah, Lance, you basically said what I would have said is the most important thing. For an electric player, learning the notes on the fretboard is probably the most important thing you can do. If you don't use it, you're probably not going to remember it, but you should learn that. That will help you, if nothing else, apply all the theory that we're learning right now to the fretboard, especially when we start getting into chord theory, which is going to happen day after tomorrow, I think, unless I get sidetracked with something else. And then for acoustic guitar, people who generally are going to be playing acoustic guitar, the most important thing, I think, and I'm not saying the only thing you learn, obviously. I'm just saying, like, okay, prioritize learning your fretboard if you're an electric player primarily. Prioritize learning a bunch of grooves with your right hand or finger picking patterns, learning a bunch of that stuff if you're primarily an acoustic player. That's 100% true for banjo players. I know we don't have any banjo players necessarily out there, but banjo is one of those instruments where it's an open G chord, so you don't have to do anything with your left hand. Here, I'll show you. And I'm an awful I'm not really a great banjo player. I'm working on it. I'm practicing it. It's one of the things I've been doing since we've been on, the quarantine thing. So, but banjo is tuned to an open G chord, and banjo is kind of bass backwards. The highest string is on the lowest position. And that's not tuned. But basically, if you were a banjo player, and I say this for acoustic guitar players too, the most important thing is to learn right hand technique. I mean, ultimately, you're going to do both, of course. The reason I say that is because I'm dealing with mostly novices. And so when I hear a novice player, when I hear a novice guitar player on acoustic, one of the things that I'll notice that's common among all acoustic guitar players that are beginners or novices is that they pretty much do everything with this. They play every song with the same strumming pattern. And so by the second song, you're going, well, they know one strumming pattern. So the idea is that you learn a bunch of strumming patterns, and that way you can play every song with a different groove. You got to think of yourself as a drummer. Strumming is drumming, basically. And so you want to think of yourself as the drummer when you're playing acoustic guitar, and that'll make your playing a lot more interesting. And if you're going to go out and play some songs with friends, you're going to go to a club and play at a nightclub, or if you're going to just go on the beach and hang out with friends, you want you want to have some different things going on in the right hand. And that's the same thing with banjo. Is really all about the right hand. Yeah, use a banjo, go to jail, right? So basically, it's like you want to. You gotta have. I need to work on it. I really do. I'll see 7-year-old kids that just can wail on the banjo, and it's really all right hand. You got to get that right hand technique down. It's 3 fingers, thumb and 2 fingers generally. I also would like to learn frailing banjo, which is the strumming thing. I did some YouTube lessons on. I mean, I didn't do lessons. I watched some YouTube lessons on it, and it's weird because it was like, dang it, why can I can strum, but I couldn't get the pattern down. But that's a different style of banjo playing. It's more of a strumming thing. Yeah, claw hammer. That's right. Claw hammer, I think, is another term for frailing. And so, yeah, Tommy Emmanuel's got a great right hand. Yeah, no, it's crazy. I have some things that I can do. I've talked about my favorite strumming or favorite patterns. Oh, and Pepper, you asked me what kind of guitar this is. So this classical guitar is an Asturias. You can find them on Reverb. I really like this. It's a cedar top, and it's beautiful Brazilian rosewood back and sides, which is very difficult wood to get now. Although I think they're farming it now, so I think you can get it again. For a while there, it was technically not allowed to be imported, I think, but because they I know I touched my face. But that one's pretty old. It's from the 70s, before they had any restrictions, and now I think they're farming Brazilian rosewood. Yes, this is the drinking game we play. Every time I touch my face, you have to take a drink. I don't know though. Every time I want to sip a coffee, so it's not really. It's actually training me to do the opposite thing. And now, if I want to sip a coffee, I just touch my face, and we're trying to train ourselves to stop touching our faces. So actually, this is not working. This is not working. A sturdy slip. Okay, whatever, Lance. Wow. Okay. So are you guys going to be ready for tomorrow to do some scales, to get you? Now, tomorrow we will have, instead of having out a piece of paper, we will have our guitars out. So, and then do screenshots as we do these scales. And then I would rewrite them. Okay. I find that, everything that I'm showing you, all those screenshots we did of all those pentatonic scales and diatonic scales in the caged method stuff, if you want to rewrite those out yourself, you'll find that you get a little bit more, a little bit, tiny bit deeper understanding of what you're doing or what we're doing. So yeah, we're back to the guitar tomorrow. So can tell by the nails, they're pretty clean. I don't know anything about Ortega classical guitars. I'm sorry. I don't. It's difficult. Cheap electrics I know more about. Ortega, I don't know anything about. Cheaper acoustics, I'm not really familiar with. My other classical guitars are Ramirez, and it's really a flamenco guitar. You've seen that one before too. Before I go, any other questions? Goya. Yeah, I've heard of Goya's. The action's a little high. Yeah, I doubt that the neck is warped. The necks on a classical guitar is pretty thick and solid, kind of a baseball bat kind of thing. So it might be something where you can actually loosen the strings and then slide out this just slides out. So if you have some sandpaper, you can file it down, but don't do too much. Just what's to say? Measure twice, cut once. So just sand a little bit off, and then slide it back under, and then try it. And if it's still high, you can do it again. I did it too much on my Ramirez, and now a couple notes buzz, and I'm like, dang it. But I really wanted my Ramirez to play easy. Oh, you file with your grinder. Well, that could be careful. You gotta be careful with that, because that could take it down really fast. I would just use a piece of sandpaper because it's slower. Guilds are great guitars, especially the old ones. Back in the day, the only Guild 12-string that you would ever see the only 12-string you would ever see was the Guild 12-string. I always wanted one. My first 12-string was my second guitar, and it almost made me quit playing guitar because it was such an awful instrument. It was a K, which is like the cheapest guitar. So to have a really, really cheap 12-string is asking for problems. But I always wanted a Guild, but they were way out of my price range when I was a kid, obviously, and it was not a big necessity. And then later in the 90s, when I was working for Taylor, I was able to buy stuff from them for basically factory cost, which was great. So I bought a Taylor 655 12-string, and it's amazing. It's so great. It plays so easy. Because I played Martin 12 strings, and back in the 70s, Martin 12 strings just played so hard. 12 strings are hard to play to begin with. So if you can get one, what Taylor kind of says they do is they start with a neck and then they build a guitar around it. So they start with playability and then they build a guitar around it. Whether you love or hate Taylor's, I'm more of a Martin fan, but I do really love my Taylor 12 string, I have to say. Yeah, no, 12 strings are a lot of work, and the neck's wider, harder to play. They're hard to play. I've done some sessions on 12 strings that just, I did one session where, oh my gosh, it was for a documentary called, you can look it up. I think it's on Revolution OS. I think it's on YouTube. I think you can see the documentary on YouTube. And it was one of the few times I ever played in a room with an orchestra. And there's two reasons why I don't like to do that for sessions. One is because I get nervous when I've got to read and be perfect because everybody else around me is a really good reader. String players are great readers. That's one problem. The other problem is if you're in a room, in this case, I was in a room with probably 30 other musicians, and we were doing electric guitar as well as acoustic guitar and 12 string. And I knew that we weren't going to be stopping everything because you're paying everybody by the hour. I knew that we weren't going to be stopping everything to go, hey, let's get a guitar tone. I decided, I want fuzz distortion with tremolo on this song. And, they never had any direction on the charts. The composer really hadn't written for guitar very much. He was actually a friend of mine, but he hadn't done a lot of guitar play. So he didn't give a lot of direction. So I just did everything with a clean sound on electric. And it was baritone too. That was the other thing. I was playing baritone. So that made it tougher because I'm having to transpose in my head because the baritone's down a fourth. So it was a tough session, but I even told him before, I said, why don't we do me as an overdub? Meaning record the orchestra and then I'll come later and then we'll do all the guitar stuff. And they're thinking, well, we really want to do all this at once so we don't have to spend, 6 hours in the studio. We only want to spend 3 hours in the studio. But of course, after they started listening, they had to have me come back the next day because they hadn't given me any really direction. And I ended up replacing all my guitars. Well, one of the cues was, and thankfully, I was even telling them, this is not playable. And one of the cues was on 12 string, and it was insanely hard. It was very difficult reading. It was interesting because we're talking about Lydian. It was descending Lydian scales in different keys, and he wanted it to ring out as much as possible. But on guitar, that's not doable. But I figured out that if I lower the high E string down to D, and it's 2 strings. So if I lowered both those strings down to D and then raised the D string up to E on the 4th string, I was able to play these scales with pretty much one shape. I think the shape was something like this. And so I was able to kind of. But the other thing was it was nothing but 16th notes. So the paper I wish I had the chart still. It was just a million 16th notes, and they were all in groupings of 5. So it was actually, I was probably doing something like what was it? So it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the accent would fall, downbeat would be on a different number. So so I'm playing the hardest instrument to play. I'm reading a lot of notes on, that can't be played on a normally tuned guitar. So I'm having my brain, I had to reinvent the guitar. And then I'm having to play groupings of 5. So it was insane. It was like one of the most difficult. It was my friend Chris. And so you might be able to hear that. It's in the soundtrack. It's called Revolution OS. And it was kind of about, I think it was kind of at the time, I think this was early 2000s. It was kind of an anti Bill Gates kind of thing. They were trying, it was open platform programming video about that. It was a documentary about that. So, and then Christopher, capos do help. So one trick on a 12 string, if you're having trouble with playing a 12 string, you can tune it down a half step, which helps preventing that G string from breaking. And then you put a capo on the 1st fret, and now you're in standard tuning. The only thing is your fret markers won't line up the way you remember them. So, but if you're just playing open chords, it's not going to really matter. But it does 2 things. It lowers the action to fret height instead of nut height, so that makes it a little easier to play, and it brings your arm a little closer to your body, which also makes it easier to play. So the fret's a little smaller. So if a 12 string's feeling kind of big, you could even feasibly go down a whole step and then capo at the 2nd fret, and that would even bring it in further. So Christopher, capos definitely help with 12 strings. Let's see, Jersey Davy. Hey, Jersey, sorry. Can you give us the name of the Renaissance you played at the beginning? Oh, sorry. Wow, you've been sitting there the whole time? You know what? If you go to my Facebook page for this, let me give you the link for that. I'm gonna upload. I scanned this for my son the other day, and for my nephew. It's 500 years old, so it's basically public domain. I don't really have a problem. But you if you want to buy it, I'm sure. Look at that. The price on it said $2. I got this in college, so this was 1979 is when I got this. This copy is that old. In fact, it may have some coffee stains on it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how my scan turned out, but I'll get the link. And it's a great piece for weddings. Like I said, if you double each of those pieces, if you play each of these pages twice, by the time you get to the end of it, it's about 20 minutes of music, which is perfect for a wedding. It's beautiful and peaceful, and people really like it. I don't like to do hard music when I'm doing weddings because I don't want to make mistakes, and I don't want to have to practice too much beforehand or anything like that. When I was doing weddings, I wasn't making enough to justify putting a lot of work into. That's why I stopped doing it. What was I looking for? Okay, so hold on a second. Here we go. Let's see. This is going to be a long URL. I have a feeling. It's not too bad. Oh, let's see. Let me copy this and see if this loads. You don't need all this extra stuff here. Hold on. Okay, there it is. Okay, cool. So there's my Facebook page. I uploaded AJ's his diatonic scale sheet that looks better than mine. It's great because it has all the letter names of the notes too. So that's up there. You can download that. That's on my Dropbox. I'll just leave it up there. And then I'm going to put up a link for this Pavanas, and a Fantasia. Okay. What is what's going to make your head explode, Kathy? Oh, you got to go get dinner. Okay, go get dinner. See you tomorrow. And then let's see. So, and like I said, this is a great piece. And what I do is I would capo third fret to make it sound like lute, because it was originally written for lute. So it just even makes it even sound better, I think. And it largely uses basic chords we know, like C chord here, a little F chord, a little D. You get a softer sound if you play over the sound hole. And it's really interesting too, because it's almost like they didn't have rules back then, but they totally did. But that melody there is C over a C chord, essentially. Lydian, then back to diatonic C major. You're on my page waiting. Okay, give me a minute. I'll do it after I sign off. Okay, Pepper. And then. I like this part. Almost Spanish sounding. Actually, he was Spanish. I mistakenly said he was Italian, but Luis Milan was Spanish. Valencia. So this is the third of the 6 pieces. Some bar chords, not too many though. And I'm sure that there's probably time for a nap. Keep playing. I could totally do that, right? That's what Twitch is for. You know, if I were to do Twitch, I would probably just set up my Twitch, go on, and just practice my classical guitar or something. You know, that would be crazy. Just Twitch my practice time. It might get a little boring because I might take a section that I'm working over and over again. I wish I had time to do all the, you know, I wish I had another lifetime that I could just do classical guitar, another lifetime that I could just do bluegrass, another lifetime I could just do blues, another lifetime I could just do band. You know, it's like literally the people I tend to listen to that's the only thing they do. Like we were talking about Jerry Douglas yesterday. He's such a great dobro player. He's so good. And it's like when I listen to him, I go, man, I wish I could spend the whole day just practicing dobro. To be honest, if I retired, if I were retired, I'd probably still just play guitar all day, but I would just be practicing and trying to do something that I couldn't do yesterday. That to me, there's nothing for me more fun than being able to do something today that I couldn't do yesterday. I just love that. So, okay. I am going to sign off now. Gregory, thanks so much. Michelle, great to see you there. Lance, thank you for joining in with us. Gary, always good to see you all. This is a lot of fun, and we may have to have a party someday and get together. I'm thinking France, Paris, maybe. So, and then I'm going tomorrow. We're going to do some scale shapes, and you'll get to. We're going to try to take this mode lesson, these mode concepts, and apply them to a not very good good instrument in the guitar. Guitar is not as good as piano. And this is completely unrelated. But in jazz, I tend to think of guitar as being the best instrument. but it's not the best rhythm instrument. The best rhythm instrument is piano, and the best solo instrument is saxophone. But the second best in both of those categories is guitar. Guitar is the second best rhythm instrument, and guitar is the second best solo instrument in jazz. So I think coming in second on both of those is pretty good. So anyway, God bless you guys. I'll sign off now. I'll leave the chat up so you guys can all say goodbye. Okay. Too far to drive.